Well, looks like JP's trying to compete with the NA version, although this is actually some good news, unlike the NA version of the game where we're moving on to the road of, the road of Lost Belt 7. Over here on JP Ordeal Call, looks like we actually have a definitive date when this is definitely going to be coming out and it's not going to get stalled another time. It looks like it's going to be late March, which I would expect that to mean like the last week, somewhere around the 24th to the 31st. I'm expecting very, very late March. So I don't know what we're going to get before that. Probably just the White Day event, I would suppose. And then we'll move into Ordeal Call. Sorry, must be a bug going around right now. But I think that's when we'll probably move into this, which I am delighted. I was really interested in Ordeal Call 1. I kind of read a few of the translations just because, and not to spoil too much, but just the setting and the way the story seemed to have been structured. I think I'm dancing around spoilers the best way that I can, but the way that it was structured, I really enjoyed. It really intrigued me. So I kind of looked around and got a couple of translations, and it wasn't half bad. Like, it was an enjoyable story, so I want to get to the next part because obviously the story's got to be pretty good if they're stalling the end of part 2. I don't think I'm alone when I think that Ordeal Call is kind of just the midway point to buy a little bit of extra time before we finish part 2. I don't want to say that I don't think they really intended to ever have Ordeal Call be a thing, but I have my suspicions. I have my doubts. So yeah, moving on with the campaign, we are going to be getting some nice little goodies over here on the JP version of the game. Some apples, which I will definitely take, but appreciate if you could chuck these over to me on the NA version with that lotto coming up. One of the more, important things that JP players will want to be aware of is that all of these interludes will be available for everybody to do, which is something that they did starting for, Road to Lost Belt 7. They were like, hey, maybe people that don't have some of these servants want to read their interludes. If you don't have Kama, maybe you want to read Kama's interlude. Maybe you want to read Nito Chris's interlude, right? Even if you don't have them. So this is going to be kind of nice, and above all else, it's extra Saint Quartz. We have those missions where for doing every 10 interludes, you get, 10 Saint Quartz back, so it also can kind of help you out on that and getting through some of those missions, because I'm assuming the Ordeal Call 2 units are probably going to be pretty good. I'm kind of on the fence if we're actually going to get a new White Day servant, because, I don't know, man, 2 new 5-star servants in 1 month, that's not the FGO that I know. We're probably going to get a costume servant for White Day, and then probably a 5-star and at least a 4-star for Ordeal Call 2, if not 2 different 5-stars like for Ordeal Call 1. So make sure that you are stocking up on these Saint Quartz over here. I don't know why this one didn't get translated, but make sure you're stocking up on those. And then obviously we're going to have some missions as well, which are always nice to grab a couple of extra Saint Quartz. I kind of wish they would drop. A 10's not bad, but, if you're trying to 120 some units, maybe chuck me like 15, 20. Let me build up on these. I'm trying to 120 my Draco, and I'm in the middle of grailing my my Kama and everything. So, I'm kind of running out of EXP cards. Chuck me a couple other ones of those. But other than that, unless you're not caught up, you have to, they are like knocking this down on AP so you can get caught up on that. They're giving you the blue cubes to make sure that you can kind of just blitz through bosses. Although notably, I guess if, this is something that I checked out as well, it looks like you don't need to do a part 1.5 or doing 5.5, which is the Doman one, or 6.5, which is Trom. So that's kind of good, obvious information. I know that usually they don't make you complete those things for story purposes, but just if you're a newer player and you're wondering, oh man, do I gotta blitz through all this content? No, you can take a couple of little shortcuts here, which realistically means you just have to do, 7 story chapters, and with the blue cubes and half AP, you're sure to blitz through those in absolutely no time. Now, they are bringing the banner over here that's going to bring back all of the Ordeal Call 1 servants, and I think it's interesting to decide if you want to summon on this banner, because all of these units are really good. Like, there's not really a bad one of the bunch. Durian Dana as an AoE Arts Berserker is really nice if you don't have somebody like, say, Summer Masashi or someone like Summer Ibuki. Not even for farming, but just someone that can kind of blitz through AoE nodes. He's just very solid for that. Doesn't have the most crazy kit on the planet, right? But his kit is very strong. It's definitely very, very usable. And so if you pull him as a consolation prize, especially at NP1, obviously 1, but 2, 3, or 4, maybe NP5, then he's going to really put in some work for you, especially being the 4-star on rate up. But the 5 stars, I think, are particularly interesting because Bima, I think, has this unfortunate case of just not being super popular, and so that's why people did not go and summon for him or did not acknowledge how good he is. But Bima hits like a truck. The dude hits really, really hard because they gave him the Arash Chengong just free overcharge damage on the overcharge for his NP. So you just put, I don't know, Scotty's NP in front of him. Maybe you brought Castoria because you want that debuff cleanse. Doesn't matter. Put that in front of him. Not only will you give him that attack buff, but you'll overcharge him to give him that insane damage, and he will just lay waste to people. So he's a very, very strong servant. I don't know if I would particularly say he's worth summoning for off those merits, because Bima is good, but I think it's one of those servants that you just let come to you on a different banner, or maybe there's a servant that's on rate up that you want, or maybe it's, well, not like a GSSR, because I don't think Bima is actually limited. Let me actually double check that to make sure that I'm not just talking out my butt over here. I'm pretty sure Bima is the non-limited unit and Durga is the limited one. Yeah, he's story locked, so I guess if there's like, well, they don't really put these guys on GSSRs, I guess. I was going to say you'd have him come to you on a GSSR, but I guess a free 5-star ticket is another one, because now they're putting the story lock guys on there, so I guess you could wait for that. You kind of get what I'm getting at. You maybe not go summon him for him in particular, but then you have, and let me just make sure again that I'm saying this correctly, because I believe both Medusa and Durga are limited. Yeah, she's limited, and so is Durga, but let me just double check that to make sure that I am not lying. I'm not capping. Yeah, okay, so they're both limited, yeah. Okay, then my thought process was right, that these two are very limited, and they're both very, very good servants for 2 different reasons. Durga having the anti-sky power mod has kind of come in clutch for me a couple of times when I'm kind of scrambling around, trying to find somebody that actually has sky power mod, because there's not a whole lot of them. There's people like Raiko, or say someone like Nerobride that can give those to other characters, but I don't have either one of them, so it really kind of comes in clutch when you need it. It's just one of those nice things to have, and if you don't have it, you're always scrambling for it, but once you do have it, it's nice that someone has that niche on lock. It also helps that she can do decent enough damage, has a 50% battery, and has, I guess, kind of a nice niche that I like going into challenge quests, where she can change all of her cards to arts cards, so you can pretty much guaranteed refund your NP. So even if it's like a single target guy, well, all of your stuff is arts anyway, you're gonna hit him with a bunch of arts cards, refund a bunch of NP, and you're chilling. You're all Gucci. Now, Saber Medusa, on the other hand, is good for the complete opposite reason. While Durga is probably going to be used more as a farming servant and someone you could bring to challenge quest, Saber Medusa could be used for single target farming. Sure, you could use her to chunk some really large enemies, but she is phenomenal if you want to bring her into CQs, especially, God forbid, they are an Earth Power Mod attribute enemy. She's going to eviscerate them, and she's just got a lot of good stuff in her kit. I mean, she's got all the bare necessities you'd want in your card buffs. She's got the ability to kind of sustain herself. She has protection. She's just a good servant all around. There's not really anything that I would say that I dislike about Saber Medusa. I mean, I know she didn't make it in the top 5 for, last year's JP units, but still, I think like overall, worst case scenario, you would rank her like an A at the very least. She's still very, very good, if not maybe an A+ tier unit. They're both very, very strong, but I can understand being a little bit on the fence about summoning, because while they are really good, I mean, even Bima, like I was saying, maybe you just let him come to you, but these two, even though they're limited, I would maybe hold out, because I'm a little bit more cautious when units kind of start to come out and we have, a main story chapter coming out. I mean, if you really like your Sakura faces, you want to go for Durga, or you really like Medusa and you want to go for Saber Medusa, by all means, go for that. Don't let me stop you. But it just seems that we're kind of getting stronger servants at the start of this year. Like, the servants have been really good in, well, at least with Takaru and with Ushigozen, and especially with Yui being a really good surprise support. Iori as the free-to-play, they were all really strong. Andromeda, I think, is good, but kind of in a way that we don't really need right now. You don't really need a tank servant, but she might show herself to be better later in her tanking ability. So that being said, I know we're early on into the year, but it being a main story chapter, I would expect us to get at least one banger unit coming out of that. And I always have just, I'm always very suspicious when story chapters come out, because I'm like, look, Scotty was a story chapter servant. technically, if you want to think about it, you know, Castoria, even though she came out for Anniversary, is a story-relevant servant. You know, Koyan Sky came out for Anniversary, but might pop up in here. Maybe she's like a supporty type servant. And remember, they let us use people like Merlin before he was even in the game. So I'm always super sus on story chapters. I'm like, are you going to let me use the next Merlin and then you're going to drop him in like 3 months? You know, I'm always very suspicious on stuff like that. Even though I would really like to summon for Saber Medusa, I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence. But let me know what you're going to be doing in the comments down below if you are a JP player. This is the one perk that is really good for playing Global, is that I will not have to worry about this on Global when this comes out. This is the one nice thing about being 2 years behind, is I will have ample time to plan out for whether or not I want to summon on this banner when it does come back around. It also does mean if the next unit is really heat, I have to wait 2 years for them, but that's besides the point. With all that being said, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace, late guys.